Hi guys, David here from Prime Audio Reviews, and in the labs today we have the Fearless S6. At this point I don't really know much at all about this company, except it's a Chinese company who just appear to be a recent startup, but in the short time they've been around, they've created quite a buzz, largely in part to how good their earphones look, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first of all, let's have a look at the box. It's cardboard and it's brown. Here we've got some specifications. The model is the S6. Sensitivity is 113 decibels with an impedance of 20 ohms and frequency response of 15 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Now, enough with all that. You know how we do. We like to just get inside and get started. Interesting. We have a nice solid plastic case, and there we go. What do we have? There is a rather fancy looking shirt clip, a lot of various ear tips and a cleaning tool. I can see some of the 10 Mac or AliExpress spiral tips in there, a few pairs of generic foam tips and several silicone tips. That looks promising so far. A metal card that just says fearlessaudio.com, and on the back, I don't know if you can see it, it's a bit difficult to see. That's a nice touch. It's not the most practical addition, but it's interesting and feels nice. Anyway, apart from all that, nice. Let's have a look. Beautiful. Beautiful looking monitors, as you can see. They've got a kind of a silvery glittery faceplate with the Fearless branding there, and you can't see that, can you? So a total of 6 drivers. You can see the electronic crossover there. Very similar to the CTZ6 that I reviewed recently. Beautiful shell. Let's have a look at this cable now. Take the earpieces off first. They come out quite easily. I'm generally not a fan of these Velcro cable ties. They tend to be more of a hindrance than a benefit most of the time, but you can cut it off, so it's not a big problem. And at the top, preformed ear hooks with color-coded 2-pin connectors. I'm a huge fan, as you probably know by now if you've watched any of my other stuff. You know I'm a huge fan of the color coding. Aluminium, lightweight, There is the chin slider again with the Fearless Audio printed on it. Nice Y-split. Original, I haven't seen that style before, it looks nice. Below the split, it's reasonably thick. It looks quite similar to the CTZ6 cable. Feels very strong, looks good. Finally, the straight 3.5mm plug with carbon fiber pattern on there. Nice solid strain relief as well. Fantastic, really nice looking earphone. Shape looks good, it should be comfortable. And that's about it for now. As always, I'm going to go and have a listen to these for a few days or a week or so, and I will be back and let you know how it went, what I think of it. Until then, see you soon. Alright guys, I'm back. I've been listening to the S6RUI for about a week or so now. Before we go any further, I'd just like to mention these were made by Yo-Yo. So thank you, Yo-Yo, because frankly these IEMs are phenomenal and you did a fantastic job. Now, I'll start off with the comfort. The comfort is just fantastic for me. Sort of got a custom style shell, very similar shape to what you get with a custom in-ear monitor. All the edges are smooth and rounded. You know, it's medical grade resin, so you don't have to worry about that at all. It's got the bumps and curves and dips in all the right places. It just fits naturally into your ear. Feels really good. Looks great as well. You can't deny that's a good looking IEM. So for build quality and comfort, these get top marks, as good as anything else you'll find for the price. You know, usually when I listen to a pair of earphones, you get a fairly quick idea off the bat whether you like them or not. And I find that generally if I do like them initially, then from that point on it's kind of moving forward and trying to determine what parts that I don't like. But the S6 here sort of resonated with me immediately, and within seconds I just knew that I liked the sound signature. And from that point on, try as I might, I just didn't find any negatives about the sound. I'm not saying it's better than top of the line flagship models from other companies, whether they be from China or anywhere else in the world, in the West. But for a mid-tier in-ear monitor, this is pretty much as good as it gets. For the sound signature, I would say it's a little bit warm. It's very smooth, non-fatiguing. It's resolving, there's heaps of detail, there's good layering. Okay, bass. With a lot of all balanced armature IEMs, yeah, I always get reminded that there's no dynamic driver. As good as balanced armature IEMs are, you sort of can't help feeling like there's something missing. You know, when the big bass drop hits, or that section where you're expecting a rumble, deep rumble in your ears, and it just doesn't happen. I don't get that with the S6 though. It never feels like you're compromising on the bass, and that's a big deal. The bass adds an underlying warmth to the overall tonality. At the same time, it doesn't compromise any of the resolution. It doesn't muddy up the sound at all. It just finds the perfect balance between impact and weight in a sort of non-destructive manner that doesn't negatively affect the mid-range or the treble. It feels fairly balanced relative to the mid-range and the treble. It also feels powerful. The bass notes have such good definition as well. Bass extension is excellent. It's got a little bit slower than average roll-off for a balanced armature, and that gives it a nice bit of extra weight. You can sort of really feel the weight and the impact in the bass, which is important. It sounds more like what you would expect from a dynamic driver, and it doesn't get much better than a dynamic. You know, some people will say a planar is better. Some people love the speed of the balanced armature bass, but for me, I like to feel that impact. A lot of BAs can do mid bass quite well, but they really struggle when it comes to sub bass. This one does not struggle at all. It doesn't feel like there's anything missing. There's no compromise. It just does it so well. The mid-range is full-bodied. It's inviting. It's a more musical than analytical type of sound. Mid-range notes have plenty of thickness and density, but they don't feel slow or bloated, not sluggish at all. And here's a big part of what makes this earphone special, is that despite the warmth and the body in the mid-range and the overall tonality, there's no compromise in the detail and the resolution, and that's not an easy feat to pull off, but the S6 just nails it. It does it so well. Vocals sound great, male and female vocals. The articulation is very good. It's easy to pick up what the performers are saying. You know, you might even finally figure out what that word is, or some of those words that an artist is saying that you couldn't quite make out on another earphone. There's a good chance you'll be able to pick that up with the S6 because of its good resolution, because of the articulation and clarity. And for the treble has just the right amount of density, very good timbre. It sounds realistic. It has a natural decay, not too fast or not too slow, so the sheen on hi-hats and cymbals sounds very accurate. The thing is, I think what I like about it personally is that it's a bit further back in the mix. It sort of sits further behind the mid-range and the bass a little bit. So the timbre and the airiness and the crispness is all there, but it's not up in your face. It's just sort of back here, which really lets the mid-range and the bass shine through. So some of the songs that I listen to, here we've got Lullaby by The Cure from their Disintegration album. This album was released in 1989, so it's not the best recording, but it's not bad either. But there's this big bass drop right at the beginning of the track, which often feels really lackluster with some balanced armature earphones. You sort of waiting for it and expecting it, and then it just fizzles out. But not here. This one just nails it beautifully. Robert Smith's vocals are quite intimate. They're up close to the microphone, and on some earphones, if the soundstage is a little bit too small or not that great, it can be a little bit uncomfortably intimate. Not here, of course. This one does it beautifully. Here we've got Shifts by Catatonia. To be fair, this song sounds pretty great on almost anything. It's just one of those songs that sounds good on almost any earphone, but it does have this speedy little hi-hat action, and if an earphone is a little bit too dark, or if it has a dip in the treble, sometimes those hi-hats can sound a little bit too far back. But with this one they're clearly audible. Sounds great, and it's also a good track for deep male vocals. Traveling by Utada Hikaru. I listened to this track because the recording itself is sibilant, and with a lot of earphones this song can be quite unpleasant to listen to. You'll know before it even gets to the first verse. There's a little bit of spoken word which has sibilance, and you'll know right away. You'll know very early on how your earphones will react generally to sibilance, and this is a good track for that. It's also a fairly busy song with a few things going on, so it's good for testing instrument separation as well. Take It in Blood by Nas. This song has a sort of a deep sub-bass note throughout the whole song, and if your earphones don't do a good sub-bass, the track just doesn't sound right. But this one does it. Beautifully. Sounds fantastic. It doesn't sound like there's anything missing at all. It just does everything well. What can I say? So, in closing, this is some of the best that Chi-Fi has to offer. This is what it's all about: getting incredibly good value, incredibly high standard of performance at very good value. I recently went to CanJam Singapore, and I tested a lot of top of the line IEM stuff that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. The S6 performs really, really well in comparison. It is easily as good as any other mid-tier IEM that I heard at the show. And overall it is just a fantastic product, and I absolutely recommend this if you've got a few $100s to spend. I know that they're not cheap. But a lot of people are shopping in that range, and if you are, this is probably about as good as you're going to get. So definitely check these out. Highly recommended. I think that's about it. These are the Fearless S6RUI. Get yourself some. You won't regret it. If you liked this video, found it useful at all, do those stupid things with the stupid YouTube buttons, you know what to do. And I will see you in the next video.